Hi again, everyone. Welcome to another episode of Capital Talk, sponsored by Excel, also available as a podcast. I'm Rick Kessler from RVBusiness. With me, as always, Sherman Goldenberg from RVBusiness. And joining the two of us today is Jay Landers and Jason Rayno. I guess right now you guys are co-vice presidents of government relations.
RVIA is so important that they've got two vice presidents of government affairs right now.
That's right.
Well, gentlemen, thanks for joining us. And the reason why we have you guys on, of course, Jay is announced his retirement. He'll be retiring here at the end of March. And Jason, welcome aboard. You are going to replace the very large shoes of Jay Landers.
Thank you, but we don't like to use the word replace. I am the successor, definitely not the replacement.
It's been, it's so easy to look back and go, holy mackerel, 32 years. That's what in fact, it was last week that it was the 32-year mark. So, it's been a remarkable career, and we've had some crazy success over that time frame. So working with wonderful people makes it easy. So,
Jay, if you had to briefly pick out what may be the most memorable governmental affairs issue or moment, what might that be?
It was probably the day that I met you, Sherm. So, how impactful, how much more impactful could anything be?
Well put, Jay.
Yeah, no, that's a trick question. I get that. You're trying to trip me up as I get one foot out the door. Our victory at HUD, making the difference between vehicles and housing was huge. Creating a federal program, because we were really state driven for years and years. Creating ORR, right from the ground up. Those are some serious benchmarks that will last a long time.
What years generally?
So I think, when Frank Hugelmeyer came in, he's the one who kind of generated a significant amount of change. He was the big change agent that the board wanted and got. Frank immediately said, all right, we're going to do some federal relations as well. So it was a big ramp up on that. And so he came in, maybe 15-ish, 2016, maybe.
Yeah.
And then right from the get-go, we started talking about, we need to corral the entire outdoor recreation industry to be even more impactful. And so that really came to fruition probably around 2018. And I think that's about the time we finally got our push with HUD resolved. So a lot of impactful things, coinciding with when I took over government affairs. Okay, anyways.
Rick, go ahead.
Well, Jay, this one is before my time. So can you explain why it says you are the godfather of RV specific franchise?
So in the 90s, back when you were in second grade, the relationship between manufacturers and dealers was a little testy, and there were a lot of franchise bills that were going through the state houses. And so we were working with our dealers, trying to come up with a negotiated settlement, and then have to work with the auto dealers because it was really their law. And so, it was trying to kind of modify the play between our industry and the auto industry. And then you throw in these state legislators who most have no clue about, what franchise is, number one. And number two, they think about us as, it's just another motor vehicle industry. Well, no, it's not. So it's a lot of education in terms of teaching the differences between the two, significant differences between the two industries. And so I did that for a long time, and it made sense that we agreed on a lot of things with the RV dealers. We got that resolved near the end of the 90s, and we used it a little bit here and there, and it didn't really get a lot of traction. fast forward another 10 years, and I sat down with Harold Oler, the former general counsel for Lazy Days, because we had done a bill in Florida, and he and I worked out basically the guts, the rest of what's now called the model dealer franchise law. And then we kept talking it through, and then eventually, we formed a committee between RVIA and RVDA and made it a little more formal. And in fact, both our boards accepted the document, the premise, number one, and then the document itself. So we have a document that says this is how the RV industry should be regulated in the States. And so it's a slow and tedious process, but it's one that we can now go arm in arm with the RV dealers. And so, from the early mid-90s to almost now, that has been part of my job responsibilities. So it's a long time.
I can't believe you want to step away from all that.
But if we look at Jason here briefly, you.
But wait, what about me?
But what in particular? I mean, you appear to be on paper really well skilled for this position based on your career path. Tell us a bit about that.
I hope it's more than just on paper, but I'll take on paper. I've worked on Capitol Hill. I've worked in local government. I've worked predominantly, my government affairs career has been in the conservation and outdoor recreation space, most prominently with the National Park Foundation, especially around the centennial of the National Park Service. And then most recently, I was at Rivian, the EV manufacturer, working on their charging team, including working on helping private campgrounds and RV parks explore charging, right? That's something that, I was at a conference and one of the owners came up to me and said, it's like Wi-Fi from a few years ago. It was an amenity and now it's a necessity. And I think a lot of folks are viewing EV charging and on kind of the same path right now for these private RV parks and campgrounds. I think they view it as an amenity, a market differentiator, right? But pretty soon, the next few years here, it's going to be a necessity as they seek to attract users and visitors that are driving EVs.
If we look at here in the first quarter of 2023 at what the priorities are sitting here now for governmental affairs, looking at 2023 and beyond, what are the top issues that both of you think the industry needs to look at real closely?
Who do you want to answer then?
Yeah.
Whoever wants to.
What if neither of us want to answer that? Well, let me just jump in real quick, and then Jason can elaborate. So this whole, as he mentioned, the electrification issue. So the feds have this big pot of money. They're going to give it to the states. We want to influence how that money gets spent in the states in terms of how they build out their electric vehicle infrastructure. That's a big issue this year and going forward. Mm-hmm. Campgrounds, right? The RVIA board said a few years ago, boy, we need more campgrounds. Start working more closely with the campground industry. And so we have. We're working much more closely with them in terms of privates through RVIC and Paul Bambi and his group, and then the state campground associations, the various states, we're working really closely with them. And then lastly, just a more macro outdoor recreation, from the macro level, and through ORR, we're working to, through that group, we've kind of gotten a lot more influence, have a lot more influence in some of the key committees up on Capitol Hill, through the Interior Department, with National Park Service, with the Agriculture, with the Forest Service. So a whole a raft of, stuff like that. Jason, what else would you add to that list?
Yeah, I would add the farm bill to that list. This is something we're
Perfect.
engaging on kind of as first time as an association. There's, the bulk of the farm bill is nutrition assistance, and a lot of attention gets paid to crop support and crop insurance and things like that. But there are rural development titles and conservation titles there that within ORR, we're looking at some priorities to help rural outdoor destinations continue to make investments in those destinations. Outdoor rec in a lot of these places is the lifeblood of these communities, and we want to make sure that those communities continue to have money to invest in outdoor recreation. That's really important. And I just want to double click on what Jay said about EV. It is front and center right now. Just this morning, the administration finalized guidance for the initial $5 billion for NEVI funding. So we're going to see RFPs start flying out of the states, and we've been really invested in making sure that the states are accounting for pull-through charging sites, which is what RVs and other vehicles need to make sure that a driver doesn't have to uncouple the passenger vehicle from the towable, or as more companies explore electrification on the motorization side. This is once in a generation funding for EV charging. We want to make sure the states are planning for the future as electrification becomes more prevalent in the industry.
Jason, I want to steer you into another topic I think that you have a good perspective on, the Great American Outdoors Act, and a good portion of that, we're hoping anyway, will go towards modernizing a lot of the national park campgrounds. You having been at the National Park Foundation, I'm assuming, we can only assume that that's going to help you lobby for these campground improvements.
Yeah, I mean, that's a really important point, Rick. And I would add Forest Service to it as well. The Forest Service is undertaking quite a broad campground modernization program as well. It actually overlaps with my time at Rivian as well, thinking about electrification on public campgrounds. It's a huge issue. We want RV drivers to be able to enjoy our public campgrounds. And so working on modernization is a huge, huge priority for us, and to make sure that they are accounting for RVers. I think the other thing, Rick, is, that bill was passed a couple of years ago. We're even starting, it was a 5-year authorization. So we're starting to explore how reauthorization and some potential changes and incentivizing future planning that we might want to push for.
And what's important about Great American Outdoors Act has been huge for us as an industry. And that was 2020. I think it was 2020. So
yeah, I think that's right.
Reauthorization discussions are already starting. But what's important is, I mean, when you think about addressing the deferred maintenance, which is where that money is supposed to go, you think, most people would think about, sprucing up the campsite, making sure that what we really want to do with that money is fix the water system, make sure that we surveyed our RVers. The number one thing people want in campgrounds, water, right? They want a shower, they want a toilet that works, they want to wash their clothes, they want to, you got to have a good water system, right? Pave the parking lot. You don't need pothole. So it's stuff that sometimes it really doesn't seem like it's important, but it's critical.
Yeah. Well, Sherm, in the short time we have left, we probably need to ask Jay what his retirement plans are.
He offered me one free call a month.
That's it.
Hey, guys got to eat, right? We're going to do some domestic and international traveling. My kids are spread out around the country, so they're in good places to visit. So we'll do some of that, and I have a couple of old motorcycles I want to break down and repair and strip down and fix them. So those are some big term projects. Should be fun. The best part is when we're already going to go on a cruise. When you go on a vacation, that last day or two, it's like you start ramping back up.
Oh, yeah.
I don't have to do that anymore. That's just weight off my shoulders. So yeah, looking forward
Sounds
to that.
good. Sounds good. Rick, you got any closing comments, or are you ready to get on it?
Well, just I think on behalf of many people, Jay, congratulations. And Jason, welcome to the industry.
Thank you
He'll
very
be
much.
great. He'll be great.
Thank you.
Yep.
I'm
Thanks,
glad to be
guys.
here.
Gentlemen.
Have a good one, guys.